Well, life for anyone involved in investments this week has, of course, continued to revolve around you know who, as it has for every news programme, political and financial podcast, blog, and X tweet, or whatever. And speaking of X, I'm very pleased to say I unsubscribed from it last year. It used to be a fun, good place to exchange views, but now, as you'll know if you've been on there lately, it's just nasty, I think. Anyway, rather than add more Trump analysis, which is mostly useless, as no one really has a clue where he's going with all this, least of all, I suspect, him, I thought it might be more helpful to go back to a few of the basics of what we do and why the heck we recommend that you invest in stocks and shares in the first place. If everything you might have made in the last year can be wiped out, as someone put it to me this week, in a week. So, okay, basic number one, over pretty much any 5-year period, and yes, there are exceptions, but they are few and far between exceptions, but it certainly applies over 10 years, the returns you'll get from the stock market are better than those you'll get from a bank or building society account. And the only way the value of your money is likely to keep pace with inflation. Now, when I'm talking about this to someone without much experience of investing, I compare it with owning a property, to which most people can relate. If you let it out, then you'll get rent. From shares, you get dividends. But the value of your property is also likely to increase, as is the value of a basket of shares. If you had to have your property valued every day, as shares have to be valued every minute of every day, then what you could get for your house would go up and down just as much. But mostly up if you hang on to it. But not if you'd sold after the global financial crash, for instance. Now, the other investments which most people have as part of the mix are bonds, which are loans to companies, but mostly to governments. And these have been in the news this week too. They're usually considered safer than shares because if you lend the government of most decent countries money, you'd expect them to pay it back. Where that can go wrong is if it looks as though a government might need to borrow more than expected. The market then thinks, they're going to have to be willing to pay a bit more interest on those loans then. If they think they might have to pay 5% and all the bonds around for what's already been borrowed are paying 3 or 4%, then those might become worth less and might be ditched. That's what happened to Liz Truss and what's happened to some extent to Trump, hence some of his backpedaling. The basic principle is, though, that when shares are sold, the money has to go somewhere and it usually goes into government bonds, which go up in price and so can cushion any of the falls in shares. Now, all of what's happening now will not turn out to be the end of the financial world as we know it. And if you have enough in cash, which we would always make sure you have, then you shouldn't have to touch those stocks and shares when they're down. If you're taking income from your portfolio, well, just because the price of a share goes down, the dividends, or for bonds, the interest, still gets paid, just like the rent on your house if you've got good tenants. All of which is a long way of saying that investing works. It always has, and that's why so many investment companies and investment managers and financial advisors have been in business for so long. If it didn't work, we'd all surely have been found out by now.